Good Friday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you for joining me right here on the SHR Media Network. This is the Edge of Liberty. I am your host, Sean. And as always, I'm sorry I look like this. There's only so much you can do with what you have, right? A lot going on this week, man. We're just a few days from the election. Just a few days away. And when I tell you, the rhetoric is absolutely going through the roof. We knew it was going to happen, though. I mean, you had to know. You had to know it was going to happen. Oh, look. Everything is working right. Oh, look at that. Maybe it's going to be a good Friday after all. It's time to unbutton your pants a little bit, enjoy a nice Friday meal, get your cocktails ready. You made it, ladies and gentlemen. You made it to the weekend. We almost made it to the election. Coming up Monday night on the SHR Media Network, right here at 8 p.m., we will be doing a pre-election show for 2 hours. The entire team and maybe a few guests will join us. Just getting ready for the big day. Man, it's been nuts. This whole election cycle has been absolutely insane, and it's gotten more insane just in the last 72 hours. And I'm sure we all think that this year is the worst year, but who knows, right? It may have been this intense the last election, the election before that. It's just, you always feel what's fresh the most, right? It's like any other emotion. The most fresh emotion you feel the most, and then it puts it in perspective. I don't know. I think this is by far the most intense election I remember. Even having that in mind, I think this is the most intense election. Starting off, I'll tell you, if you are the Harris campaign, you have to be asking yourself, when will it end? Maybe not the campaign itself, maybe not the election, but just the bad news after bad news and gaffes and everything else. The jobs report that came out today, abysmal. And this hurts Kamala. This is news that will not do good for her numbers, which, depending on who you're looking at, are not fantastic right now. That doesn't mean you stay home. That doesn't mean you cash it in. Don't let other people do the hard work for you. Everybody goes, everybody votes. Drive your friends if they need it. But the jobs reports, only 12,000 jobs were added last month. In October, 12,000. And mind you, these often get revised, and usually when they're revised, I'm doing my Trump thing right now, they don't get revised up. It's very rare that it would get revised up. Normally, it's revised down. We lost 46,000 manufacturing jobs. 46,000. How's that CHIPS Act right now? Wasn't that supposed to change all this, the CHIPS Act? The economy is just it's not doing well. And the prior 2 months job gains were revised downwards by 112,000 jobs. 112,000 jobs. So the last jobs report wasn't great either. And they know that. You don't have to be a genius to know that the economy is not doing well. And to see these job numbers, they're predictable. It's predictable. Anyone who says it wasn't predictable is a liar. You knew the jobs numbers weren't going to be great because you know the economy's not great. It's only a matter of time. And folks, I've said this before. When they do things in our economy, they time it and they know when the effect will hit the public, especially especially the economy, more than any other policy. And they play games with it. It's why we always have an argument about an omnibus bill just before an election. They do these things on purpose. The economy, I said last year, the true view of the Biden economy will show up post-November. You will see the first couple of months into a Trump presidency, the economy will be garbage. I'm just telling you now. That doesn't mean that he's not going to change that, but there is so much going in one direction in the Biden economy that he will have to do a lot to start changing course on that. And before everyone says, oh, look, he's covering for Trump already, and that's not going to happen, and this tells you Trump doesn't know. No. It's every president deals with this. The first couple of months. I know the Biden administration still blames Trump for this economy, even though it's 4 years old at this point. But the first couple of months, they have work to do. You have policies to change, drill, baby, drill, all that stuff. So to get this job number for the Harris administration right before the election is just not good. Not good at all. And you got to ask yourself. You really have to ask yourself. We just had this argument, conversation on social media about, what people in this country are going to be like post the election. Are they going to actually, that wasn't supposed to go on yet. Are they actually going to calm down? And it always does. It always kind of peters out a little bit just after the election. People want to get away from social media. The numbers will die down, but also the argument's going to kind of die down. There are going to be those that are going to scream. It's always going to scream, but it'll die down a little bit only because it kind of has to. You can't sustain this level of insanity. And what level of insanity are we at right now? Now, Sean, now is where you share the video. Oh, there we go. Well, there we don't go. I swear I haven't started into my Friday cocktails yet. I swear I haven't.
Said about Liz Cheney.
I don't think you even need to call it fired upon. He's saying quite explicitly and unambiguously that Liz Cheney should be shot, should be executed by firing squad.
Mm-hmm.
4 days out from Election Day, and former President Donald Trump is escalating his violent rhetoric, suggesting one of his most prominent critics, the former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, should be fired upon.
Your reaction to what Donald Trump said about Liz Cheney?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it was completely inappropriate, dangerous, and unbecoming of a leader. Mr. Trump was literally going after someone who doesn't agree with him. So it shouldn't be a surprise when people come on TV and feel the need to agree with him.
As 9 barrels, when he says 9 barrels shooting at her, that obviously evokes images of a fire.
So now mainstream media, legacy media will do what legacy media does, and that is lie profusely. So what did Trump actually say? And I have it up here, but I'll tell you. And the whole video is out there. This isn't like some magic. This is the other thing too. I've brought this up numerous times. At some point, legacy media and politicians have to realize that the internet is available. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking, but they act like we don't have the ability to just turn around and say, oh, hold on, let me just look that up really quick. Oh, that's not what he said. And in this case, what Trump said, and I do have the video here somewhere, but what Trump was saying was talking about Liz Cheney being a war hawk. He absolutely has said a million times she's a war hawk like her father. She wants to send people to war just like daddy. And that's always that she's just that person. Here is the full remark. Yes, here it is. And this is what the one that they edit down. I apologize. Believe it or not, you're going to laugh at this. I had to look it back up because the video that I thought I had saved
And I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter, but his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And
that's exactly his point in that was, and by the way, like I said, it took me 15 seconds to find that. I did not have it saved like I thought I did. It took me 15 seconds. But what they do is they edit and clip, and then they say, oh, he's calling for a firing squad. First of all, he never said the word firing squad. The entire context, the longer context, like he said, has to do with sending kids off to war and how Washington politicians do it so easily. But let's see how they would feel if they were the ones going to war with 9 gun barrels in their face. That's what he said. You saw it. He said it. But they can't help themselves. They absolutely just cannot help themselves. They have to absolutely make everything that man says into a monster. And here is what it leads to. So the Washington Post, hold on one second before I throw this up. Everyone knows the Washington Post is in complete chaos because they didn't endorse Kamala, right? Bezos said that he wants to change direction with it because there's not enough conservative voices. They're going crazy. And what's funny is when people are like, well, why would they change? This is exactly why. This is their first look show. It's a morning online show. K-Part hosts it. They have Hugh Hewitt, who is a conservative on there, but they're talking about essentially how the media, well, Hugh Hewitt's about to go into how the media lies, but just watch, and then I will comment afterwards.
I've just got to say, we're news people, even though it's the opinion section. It's got to be reported. Bucks County was reversed by the court and instructed to open up extra days because they violated the law and told people to go home. So that lawsuit was brought by the Republican National Committee, and it was successful. The Supreme Court ruled that Glenn Youngkin was successful. We are news people, even though we have opinions, and we have to report the whole story if we bring up part of the story. So yes, he's upset about Bucks County, but he was right, and he won in court. That's the story.
I'll let you keep going, Jonathan.
No, I don't appreciate being lectured about reporting when many times you come here saying lots of things that aren't.
I will come back, Jonathan. I'm done. I'm done. This is the most unfair election ad I have ever been a part of. You guys are working. That's fine. I'm done.
Hugh's pissed, and here's why. As I alluded to with the Trump-Cheney thing and all of media pushing it, this has to do with Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Trump filed a case because they were closing early election, and they got it extended through today. There was issues with it. You can look it up. It's all over the place. I'm going to go into some election issues that we're having. But this shows you how the media spun it. Essentially, K-Part was saying earlier that he will do anything to hold on to power, and it's all fake, and he throws out fake news, blah, 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 blah. And Hugh Hewitt was saying, no. He filed a lawsuit like they did trying to remove the non-certified voters or non-certified citizen voters in Virginia. They removed 1,800 people, 1,600 people because they weren't certified as citizens. They weren't citizens. And Pennsylvania, they filed the lawsuit against Pennsylvania to keep the polls in Bucks County open as they were supposed to. And now they're trying to say, well, this is all disinformation. No. They're lawsuits the judges are upholding. It's legitimate. But this is what the media does over and over and over. And it's getting worse now because the polls aren't looking good. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about Mark Cuban and what he has done for the Harris campaign this week. And so there's some reports that not surprisingly, they're upset about it. So you have to ask yourself, why does the media have to constantly lie and cover up? And why do they over sensationalize everything? Why do they exaggerate everything? Why do they just bolt lies? Jonah, what's his name? He's a columnist and everyone knows who he is on Twitter. I can't think of his last name. But he threw out a scathing thing on the Trump Cheney thing early. Oh, how dare he? And blah, 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 blah. And then he threw out a little retraction like a half an hour ago. Oh, I acted too quickly. I shouldn't have said what I said, yada, yada, yada. And this is what they do. And I've talked about this a million times. This is what they do. They make these huge statements that make front page news, like Trump is calling for Liz Cheney to be put in front of a firing squad. And then they know the whole thing. You're supposed to be journalists. You have to, if you can't be a journalist and watch more than 14 seconds of a video, you're not a journalist. I'm a commentator. I'm not a journalist, and I watch it because I want to know what the hell I'm talking about before I say something. Have I been wrong? Yes, but usually it's because new information comes out about something. I'll be the first to admit I've been wrong. They can't do that. That's not an admission. If you read his whole retraction, he still blamed Trump because in the past, Trump had said blah, 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 and that led me to blah, blah, blah. It's the same as a guy sitting in front of a judge and say, all right, Your Honor, the casserole wasn't cold this time when I got home from the factory, but it's been cold so many other times that I just assumed. Is that acceptable? They're supposed to be held to a higher standard. Media in this country, legacy media, is garbage, and it is dying for a reason. It is dying for a reason. There's a reason why X is now the #1 news site in the world. Why Catherine Herridge, who's been amazingly reporting on the Hunter Biden cover-up, it's why her voice is actually getting out. Because people are sick of it. Sick and tired of it. You know how many quote-unquote new conservatives or new Trump supporters are coming out? You can read it for yourself. It's all over the place saying, I was totally jaded by mainstream media for years. For years. But now I'm actually like seeing what people really said or what people really didn't say. And it's new and it's refreshing. And that's why I've come to this side of the aisle, or I've left my former thoughts and formed new thoughts. And kudos for them for being big enough to be able to ingest information that they used to not believe. It takes a really, really strong person to do that because, let's face it, we as a species don't do that well. We're up against a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Mark Cuban. I also want to talk about California Prop 36 and a couple other things right here. The Edge of Liberty with our friends over at KLRN Radio and the SHR Media.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and oh boy, did Joe move some stuff on me. You know,
conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch Reaver of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network with our good friends over at KLRN. Look, wherever you are, I don't know if you have yet, but please like and subscribe, YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. You can follow me on X at #2 Against Tyranny. Or you can be like this whiny, sad little human being over on Twitch, and you can sit here and try to troll me nonstop and act like I am. Almost 50 years old. You can say whatever you want to me. Doesn't bother me for a second. I talk about California. I wanted to pop this up, though. This, if Brian Stelter's posting this, the panic is real. Anonymous TV executive, half the country has decided that Trump is qualified to be president. That means that they're not reading any of this media, and we've lost this audience completely. A Trump victory means mainstream media is dead in its current form. We've been saying that for years. It's not anything new. And that's the problem, is because most media, they've just become either one-sided completely, or they're sensationalizing everything. California today, California, man, people don't realize, and if you follow, like I said, I'm a California resident, so I follow it. The California Air Resource Board, they're in charge of a lot of things in California that they probably shouldn't be. Unelected bureaucrats, they get appointed. There's really no redress to what they do. You can file a complaint or whatever. It doesn't change much. You have to file a lawsuit and actually get things certified before it can force them to change. But the CEO of Chevron, Mike Wirth, today was on MSNBC, or CNBC, pardon me, explaining why Chevron's leaving California. If you don't know who Chevron is, you've never bought gas before. And it's directly related to the California Air Resource Board, CARB, as they like to be called. And part of the reason is they're doing things. They passed a law, what was it, a month ago, or passed a rule that essentially says that these fuel companies have to maintain more storage. And they're not saying right now that they have to build new storage facilities. But if you read the law in 2035, they will be forced to do it. So it just kicks it down the road. But essentially, California gas prices are what they are because California Air Resources and California, the taxes on gas and everything are just garbage. You're paying almost $1.50 or more per gallon. That's why we have the highest in the state, or in the country, rather. But the Air Resources Board, they're going to vote to add more rules into how gas is dealt with in California. They're going to wait till after the election, not a shock, like 2 or 3 days after the election. And it's allegedly going to raise gas prices by many experts who have followed them, not me. The Chevron individual was talking about that, but there are other reports out there, by 65 cents. 65 cents a gallon more for gas when you're almost paying $4.50 now. And add another 65 cents per gallon. And you wonder why people are fleeing this state like it's on fire. It can't be on fire. We don't have the gas to do it. You can't afford the gas to light it on fire. Part of the thing that California has, and a lot of people don't realize this, California has a special blend of fuel for their gasoline that's more expensive than to manufacture than most other states. It's a special blend. I don't know the scientific breakdown of the blend, but it costs more to make. It has something to do with they think it helps you. It's more ethanol, more this, more that, blah, 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 blah. Because of that, it is what's called an isolated fuel state. Almost all of the fuel that is used in California has to be manufactured here, refined here to have the special California blend. It's more expensive. And when there's an outage at a refinery for maintenance or an emergency or whatever, gas prices go up because they can't keep up with the demand. And the demand is higher and the price goes higher. It's economy 101. When you have less supply, high demand, the price goes up. Plus, you have to maintain all of those facilities, and the amount of environmental regulations that are on those facilities are expensive to maintain. So Chevron's out. The Air Resource Board, which, by the way, is going to cost more money for California because now somebody else, Phillips 66, said it might be out too. They have a lot of refineries down in the LA area. But you wonder why people are out. And that's why. It's just too expensive to live here. And part of the cost of living here is the crime, because the crime drives up insurance rates, drives up the cost of doing business. So all of these stores, the prices go up. And that leads me to Prop 36. Prop 36 is still getting overwhelming support in the state of California. Overwhelming support. It is 100% going to pass. I think it's 75% right now to 25%. The governor's furious. Why is the governor furious? Well, the governor's furious because this is a referendum on what Democrats have been doing for years in California. They're trying to make everything, they're just decriminalizing it. They're not holding people accountable, which is why they passed that stopgap law like 2 months ago. He had a big signing about it. I wrote about it, where he's, this will, this stops this and this stops that, but it doesn't actually roll back Prop 47, which was passed a couple of years ago, which is the one that changed it to where felonies went away and all this other stuff. That AB 109 drove crime rates through the roof in California. We know that. That's a fact. That's not up for debate. Prop 36 is the referendum on that. It restores some of the things done by Prop 47, the thing they called the Safe Schools Act that had nothing to do with schools. That was on the ballot the same year. There was a fuel initiative on the ballot where it's like, if you don't want this, then you can vote yes. And if you do want it, then you vote no. And it was worded really weird. And after they polled people on that particular question, they were like, I did not understand what they were asking me. And why is that an issue? Why is Prop 36 an issue? Well, because down ballot in the state of California, it is hurting Democrats. Democrats have a supermajority in California. They own the assembly, they own the Senate, and they have the governor's office. And the risk of them losing more and more seats, you're hearing about a lot of conservative or even centrist candidates that have a chance of pulling state seats in California has gone through the roof. It's crazy. Early voting, and I know California is not going to flip red. I'm not naive. But early voting in California is breaking for conservatives up and down the state. Statewide. I don't know when the last time that happened. It's a shift. It's a potential shift in California because it's really just a hard place to live. It's expensive. And this economy and the national economy being as bad as it is, with inflation still going up, it's up 20% in the last 3.5, almost 4 years. This hurts California even more. You have a tough economy. Everything's more expensive to begin with. Crime raises prices. That's been true for years. Property crime raises prices. Any crimes with automobiles raises prices because insurance goes up. And Prop 36 is pushing back on all of that. And it's kind of cool to see, because I honestly, I still don't have faith that the state's going to change direction. But just to see it breaking through a little bit, just to see people actually paying attention, it shows you how, in California no less, it shows you just how, what's the word I'm looking for, serious it is now. And people want to change. And look, Newsom's out. That's the other thing. Newsom's not running for re-election. He has bigger aspirations. He wants to go federal. We know that. He wants to go national. We know that. That's why he's been running around all over the place for Kamala. Speaking of Kamala, you remember Kamala where she picked Tim Walz, and everyone thought it was a weird pick, the Walz pick. Even back then, you had Kelly down in Arizona, you had Josh Shapiro, you had a couple people that would have been stronger picks by everybody's metrics. If you've been following politics, you look at Tim Walz and you're like, well, why? I suggested long ago that it was not necessarily that Shapiro was Jewish and that would hurt with the Hamas wing of the Progressive Democrat Party. And that's still true as far as it would have hurt with that. But I think Josh Shapiro is not a dumb guy. I mean, I'll give the guy credit. I don't agree with his politics, but he's not a stupid person by any stretch whatsoever. Josh Shapiro is a smart guy, and he's a savvy politician. Again, don't like his politics. That does not mean he's not good at being a politician. He, in my opinion, did not want to hook his horse to this buggy that is the Harris campaign. Why? Because it was flawed from the beginning. And he knew it. He's not dumb. He saw that Harris couldn't get out of Iowa in 2020. He saw her career here in California that was going to come back to bite her in the ass. I played the clip on Monday of her laughing about putting parents in jails of truant kid. But it wasn't because she wanted to get those kids back in the classroom. It was because she wanted the money from the kids being in the classroom, not for their educational purposes. It was because the state gets more money. She even said, I want that money. You saw the woman whose daughter was in the hospital who got arrested and charged because her daughter missed school while she was in the hospital. And that's just one example of why Harris was a nightmare. And she was a nightmare as Attorney General. She got rid of the Bureau of Narcotics out of the California DOJ. I knew a lot of those agents because where I was working, a lot of them got transferred into the division that was covering where I was working at the time. And I talked to them. And they even told me back then that there's a lot of skeletons in her closet. And we're seeing a lot of it. But she picked Tim Walz. All right. You want to pick the Richard Simmons of politics, only he is less charisma and certainly not as in shape as Richard. That's up to you. Go for it. But then when it comes time to press, she goes back to Josh.
Election, it's bigger than us. It's about the future. Do you want more chaos? Or like me, are you ready for some common sense? That's why I'm with Kamala. I've known her for 2 decades. She's practical and she gets stuff done.
As president, I will chart a new way forward and find solutions to create jobs and bring down costs. I will fight for you and your family every day.
Pennsylvania, let's not go back.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
So she went to Josh. And I get it. The Pennsylvania is a swing state. We know Pennsylvania we're being told it's tight. I don't think, I've been doing this for a long time, I do not think it's as tight as they're letting on. I don't think that Harris is going to pull Pennsylvania. I'll be honest. Rasmussen was saying yesterday, one of the representatives, Rasmussen, saying that, hey, even us over-polling Democrats in states like Pennsylvania, it's still a tight race. You have New Hampshire that's on the border of going for Trump. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it's definitely a possibility. So anywho, it's just funny to me that she went to, why wouldn't you send Walz to Pennsylvania? And we all know why. Walz is a nightmare. I'll tell you right now, in hindsight, when they go back and they're looking at this election, yes, it started late. That was part of what was actually benefiting her because there was less chance to expose her. But Harris picking Waltz, and we've seen some of the bizarre things that Waltz says. We've seen all the ads. There was the man ad that was put out about that was like the Coors Light commercial. It was weird. This whole Waltz thing was just bizarre. And they keep letting him talk, which doesn't work out well for them because he says stuff like this.
If you're a billionaire, Elon Musk, for example, say, that guy got it. Michigan knows that word. Look, that dude got a tax cut. If you're a billionaire, Elon Musk, for example.
He called Elon Musk gay. And I don't know if that was intentional, right? He may have gotten his words mixed up a little bit. But this isn't the first time he's gaffed, man. Like, he's just... Between him and Mark Cuban, if you don't know the Mark Cuban story yet, somebody said I'm appropriating their state in the chat room. I think because I was talking about California. That was pretty funny. If you haven't heard the Mark Cuban story yet, Mark Cuban went out yesterday, and I wrote an article about it at shrmedia.com, and he was on The View early in the morning, just doing what The View does, cackling hens and all that garbage. But he turned around and he said, I don't think, Trump's never surrounded himself with any strong and intelligent women. Oh, the backlash. No. I don't care if you agree or disagree personally. That's up to you. I disagree with that statement. But you certainly, when you've become the surrogate, Mark Cuban wants to be Elon Musk so bad. I don't know. Well, sometimes I think he wants to be Rachel Maddow just because he has the same look that she has. But he wants to be Mark Cuban so bad. He wants to be loved like like Elon Musk so bad. It kills him. So he's been stumping all over the place for Harris. And then he came out yesterday and he made that statement on The View. And now reporting, Chuck Callisto and a whole bunch of other people have said that the Harris campaign told Mark Cuban to sit down and shut up. That was it. That was the last straw. Look, they had Garbage Gate earlier in the week, right? You have the jobs reports coming out, all of these things that are going wrong for the Harris campaign. And then you have Mark Cuban turn around and say, yeah, none of the women who've ever been with Trump are strong or intelligent. It's a bold move, Cotton. See if it works out for him. I'm up against a break. We come back, we'll round out the rest of the weekend news, and I'll share with you the cocktail that I think you should be enjoying this weekend. It being the weekend before the election, one last chance to relax before Monday and Tuesday come, and it gets crazy. Please like and subscribe if you're watching. Thank you for those in the chat room. I appreciate you. You can catch me on shrmedia.com, the number 2 Against Tyranny on X, and wherever podcasts are found. We'll be back after.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch Reaver of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you being here. Right here on the Edge of Liberty. It's Friday. I got what? 17 minutes left of the show. Have you been following Garbage Gate? I am still on the fence as to whether or not Biden is helping Trump or not. So earlier this week, just before Kamala went on stage at the Ellipses, that's supposed to be her big closing speech, right? That was her big planned speech. They had a whole bunch of people there. By the way, if you ever follow the cell phone numbers on that, it's incredible. How many people came from out of state? How many people were bussed in? How many of those people, thousands, had been to other Kamala elections all over the country? But that's a totally different conversation. As she was getting ready to go on stage, Biden was on some video call. It has to do with Voto Latino, I believe, was the group that was running the call. And he called every Trump supporter garbage, which I don't know if that's necessarily the best approach, even if you are trying to send a message. And then the White House came out and said, well, he didn't mean the Trump supporters. What he was actually talking about was the comedian, Tony, whatever it is, from Kill Tony, who was at the Trump campaign speech in Madison Square Garden. And really, what you didn't realize is there was a possessive apostrophe in the verbal statement that he said. I by the way, guys, if you're ever in an argument with your girl, use that line, sweetheart, you didn't understand what I was saying. What I really, really meant was that you missed the possessive apostrophe in my statement. Try it, see how it works out for you. A verbal possessive apostrophe is what they went with. And everybody said, you just watch the video. And they said, well, some people try to say, well, it was a gaffe because, Biden, people were on TV on leftist outlets saying this. It was a gaffe because, Biden's a little slow and he's a little crazy, which it's so funny how they ignored that for 3.5 years. And now they're using that to their advantage. It's mind-boggling to me. But so they go down this whole possessive apostrophe road, and then they release the transcript. They release the transcript, and then they change the transcript from what it was. You actually have members of the GOP, and this stuff doesn't go anywhere. I get why they're doing it, but this stuff doesn't go anywhere. Saying, hey, this is illegal. They can't change the official House transcripts. And that's true. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. But what Jonathan Lemire over at the White House said, Biden in the Zoom call with the organization Voto Latino said the only garbage was the hatred of Trump supporters who said such things to American citizens, referring to the garbage comment about Puerto Rico. And like I said, it was a dumb joke that was in bad taste made by a insult comic. Whether he should have been there or not, that is what it is. And of course, everybody went crazy, right? And understandably so, right? Because if you are Harris, you must have went crazy, because even if you want to have the argument that he was talking about the comedian saying what he said about the Puerto Rican people, which he wasn't, he was talking about the island. And by the way, if you go, the island has a huge garbage issue that's been news for a while, neither here nor there. It still doesn't matter where that apostrophe shows up. It still is horrible optics. And if you're Trump, you're running a campaign, right? We talked earlier on how they clip a 5-second video of Trump and try to turn that into the whole statement, and they refuse to look at the entire context and realize that he didn't call for Liz Cheney to be in front of a firing squad. But that's what they do because we're in an election. Somebody in the chat. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. And he actually brings up a good point. Life's a lesson over on Twitch. If you follow politics and you read some of the inside baseball that's being leaked out here and there, the Harris campaign and the Biden campaign or people have not been getting along for a long time. And since she pulled the coup along with everybody else that was involved and got him out, it's gotten worse, which is why I joked. I don't know who Biden's working for at this point. There are times that I really think he wore the Trump hat. He showed up in the press room while she was doing a major speech. He hasn't been to the press room in 3.5 years. She was doing a major speech in Pennsylvania, and he walks out into the press room. Everybody covered Biden in the press room because he hadn't been there before. It's a big deal. And then he made this comment, which led, of course, he's working for the voices in his head. I can't argue with you. Which led, of course, to Trump doing this, which was hysterical. He shows up in a garbage truck. Essentially saying, if everybody is going to call us garbage and the Trump supporters garbage, then we'll act like garbage. And the garbage memes, he did a campaign event that night wearing the yellow safety vest. I've said before, Trump's a showman. He knows how to capitalize stuff on this. Even if I tell people all the time, you can disagree with his politics, but he knows how to get attention, and he does it well. That was brilliant. I don't know how you could have played that better. Fine, you want to call us garbage? And you only had, I talked earlier about Josh Shapiro being a very smart politician. Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, was the only real prominent person come out and say, you cannot call half the country garbage. You just can't do it. And then they tried every single time this week that Trump said Harris is surrounded by losers and blah, 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 where he's clearly in context speaking about the people in the administration and the advisors and all of that. They'll turn around and say, oh, look, he called half the country losers. They tried that a couple times, and everybody on social media was like, don't pull that crap, man. Don't pull that crap, man. You just can't. We all know that he's talking about the administration and the advisors and the politicians, not her followers. Trump has said 1 million times so far this year, and I give him a lot of credit. He started off really saying, hey, I want to reach to all people. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. So it's just GarbageGate, man. GarbageGate's been incredible. It's been one of the funniest occurrences in this entire campaign or election cycle. Outback Steakhouse, go ahead and explain. I don't know what you're talking about per se. I got a few minutes left. If I can get to it, I absolutely will. So I spoke earlier about The View, and this kind of ties into why Harris is not doing a very good job whatsoever with the mail vote in this country. And the mail vote for her is not turning out. We saw Obama chastising black males for not voting. But the mail vote in general is not showing up for Harris. And look, if you've eaten recently, I'm sorry. This is a warning. You can look away if you want. It's going to get ugly here for a second. But this is a problem that has been in media, it has been in pop culture, has been in everything for the last couple of years that has targeted males, or the beliefs that this country has been given about males.
So there's this clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question: do we need men? Most answered very quickly, no. And only one said she thought women needed a man in their lives, only one. But when men were asked a similar question, do we need women? Most of them said yes. So why do you think that is?
Because men are useless. I mean, and by the way, I want to differentiate between straight men and gay men, because I think I would die without gay men. Nobody can gossip like gay men. Nobody can help you accessorize like gay men. Nobody can help you keep you from doing harm to yourself, like gay men.
And this is one example. And I'm going to cut it off because I can't tolerate that show at all. I can't tolerate them. They're just horrible. But this has been a trend in America for a long time, that all males are garbage. All straight white males are the problem with everything that's wrong with this country. And, guys just in general suck. And you wonder why. The View has been a mouthpiece for Kamala since she announced. They were a mouthpiece for Biden. They're very left-leaning. Even the so-called conservative on there is not at all conservative. But this is the message that's being sent out. You wonder why young males, 18 to 24, have gone to the conservative side a lot. It's because for years, through high school, since they were young, they've been told they are wrong with everything in this country. You're a misogynist if you're a normal, typical guy. You're a misogynist if you question this female. Look, we've been attacked by so many people and commentators or whatever. Like, if you don't support Harris, you're a misogynist. What? I'm sorry. And this, like when Obama said to the black males that the brothers aren't turning out for Kamala, and that sounds like misogyny, or just throwing this out there, maybe they've done their research. They've seen what she's done and what the Biden campaign has done for the last 3.5 years. They saw what she did as attorney general. They saw what she did as a DA. They saw the hypocrisy on her. They've seen that she's flip-flopped on every issue. Look at fracking alone. She's gone back and forth on fracking, 14 times or some ridiculous number at this point. And maybe they're just done. Or maybe they're sick of working 80 hours a week to keep up with inflation. Or maybe they're sick of it being unsafe and their children being unsafe. To throw out that half the country is garbage, and then to throw out that males are the problem with everything in this country. And you have people like The View who they get so upset at some of the rhetoric that is legitimate questioning. They freak out about it, but then they throw out stuff like that and don't expect people to get insane. Yesterday, once again, Mark Cuban being on The View talking about women. Like, the left has done this for years, and it's only going to get worse between now and the election. They've done this for years, where they throw out these divisive comments. I've said this before and I've said it again. The left loves it when everybody is in their own individual groups hating each other, because then they try to turn up and be the common good. They try to turn up and be the savior. It's the same ones who tell you that big government is good and government will fix all your problems. This is what they do. They hate, and I wrote this in my article about the Madison Square Garden thing, they hate seeing events where you have people from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, race, creed, sexuality. You look at how many gay and lesbian people are coming out for Trump. They hate that because it's a loss of control. Because if you are in this group over here and they keep you in that group over there and they tell you who to be mad at, then they control you. They control the narrative. And they want us to hate each other. They want us to hate each other. That's what the left has been doing since Obama said Trayvon Martin could have been my son. That was not just a random statement. And if you look at a lot of the other things that Obama said, it was not good for the relations between lots of people in this country. Obama is smart, but he is, before everyone says he's not smart. No, Obama's a lot smarter than anyone gives him credit for. But he was also skilled at throwing out comments that got people to react. And the left has maintained that since he's left office. Media has maintained that since he's left office. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get caught up in the chat room. I apologize, guys. I'm not ignoring you. I promise. I'm just trying to get all my points out because I only got 3 minutes left and I still have to present a cocktail. So, yeah, before Tuesday comes, the rhetoric's going to get worse. There's going to be more accusations, more statements. Outback had a really interesting comment about the the compact between states. I'm going to have to read into that when I get off the air. I want to have an intelligent opinion before I respond to that, if that makes sense. I know I may not look intelligent, but I try to be intelligent. But I appreciate you guys chatting. I appreciate all the kind words, or the one kind word that came out of chat today. The rest of them were pretty. People don't like me. I don't care. That's just how I am. So Monday night, we do have the pre-election show on the SHR Media Network. It'll be me and the entire team. We're going to have some guests, 8 to 10 East Coast. I do look like I have an IQ of 100. Look, I apologize at the beginning of the show. You were late. I said, I'm sorry I look like this. I've said that a lot. Tuesday, starting at 4 p.m. on the East Coast. 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 on the East Coast. We're going to have our election night coverage, and that's going to be a whole team with our folks over at KLRN Radio. Everyone will be together. That'll be going all night long. Please like and subscribe if you're watching, even if you don't like me, just so you know when I'm back on, you can come back and harass me. That would be outstanding. So the cocktail for the week. Normally I pull up some cocktail and tell you that I've had it and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to make this one simple. You get a barrel of bourbon. You get a cup. You put bourbon in cup. You drink. Hard alcohol is going to be required between now and Tuesday. There's nothing that I can do to stop that. So that's my cocktail for the weekend. That's it for me here on the Edge of Liberty. Thank you so much for joining us. Tonight, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 on the East Coast, you have the Reaver of Common Sense, Jersey Joe, right here on SHR Media, and with our good friends over at KLRN. Yes, it was an actual barrel. That's how serious I am. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your cocktails. You earned it. Unbutton those pants, have a whole bunch of food, and try to relax. Hopefully the weekend treats you well. I will be back. Well, I'll be back Monday for my show at noon, and then later on for the pre-election night coverage. Thank you. And
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.